The signal came without warning. In the deep silence of space, a listening post of the Galactic Union caught something strange. It was old, almost broken, but it was human. A code only Earth once used, a signal style that was lost for hundreds of years. The operators froze as the sound repeated again and again. Weak but alive, coming from an uncharted system, far from any known human settlement. According to all records, no human colony had ever been placed there. The Union quickly sent a small research ship. They were not expecting danger. To them, it was only a forgotten echo, perhaps a lost probe. But as the ship approached the system, the crew felt uneasy. The planet was large, covered in thick forests, with clouds that swallowed sunlight. Strange storms moved across the land like living things, yet hidden beneath that sky. The sensors picked up ruins that were unmistakably human. The captain stared at the screen for a long time. "Impossible," he whispered. "Humanity had colonies, yes, but none in this sector. None should exist here." Still, the scanners did not lie. Broken towers rose above jungle canopies. Metal streets were buried in vines. Whole cities had been built here long ago, then abandoned or destroyed. The crew landed on the surface. The air was heavy but breathable. Their boots sank into soft earth, rich with life. Yet their eyes were pulled to the shapes ahead. Buildings twisted and broken, metal torn as if by great hands, and strange markings scratched into the walls. The explorers walked carefully, their voices hushed as if the dead might hear them. Every step deeper into the ruins felt like walking into a graveyard. Then one of them froze. "Look at this," she said, kneeling beside a stone. It was carved with letters-old human language. The words were broken, but still readable. "We endure, remain." The crew shared looks of unease. This was no simple settlement that had fallen. These people had struggled. These people had fought to survive. Night fell quickly. The team camped near what had once been a central square. In the dim light of their lamps, shadows stretched long, and the jungle seemed to breathe around them. Strange calls echoed through the dark, not quite animal, not quite human. The captain could not sleep. He sat with his scanner, watching for signals. Then he saw it. A faint movement on the edge of their perimeter. Too fast for an animal, too. Silent for a machine. Something had circled their camp. Morning came, but it brought no relief. The ruins were larger than they first believed. The team explored deeper, finding walls painted with faded pictures. They showed humans, but humans in strange forms, bodies stronger, eyes darker, faces twisted with struggle. In one picture, a figure stood holding fire in one hand and shadow in the other, as if caught between two fates. The explorers argued about what it meant. Some believed it was only the art of desperate survivors. Others thought it was a warning. But as they spoke, a new sound drifted through the ruins. A voice. Human, soft, almost broken. The crew spun toward the sound. Their lights caught movement among the vines. A figure darted away. They gave chase, running through collapsed streets, their hearts pounding. The figure was quick, moving like someone who had lived their whole life in this broken city. At last, they cornered it. What they saw froze them in. It was a man, but not as they expected. His skin was pale, scarred by old wounds. His eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. He was human, yes, but changed. The man stared at them with no fear. He said nothing, only watched, breathing slowly. Then, before anyone could speak, he turned and vanished into the ruins, as if the darkness swallowed him whole. The crew stood in silence. That night, the captain sent a report to the Union. "We have found something impossible," he wrote. "A human colony forgotten by history. Survivors may still exist, but they are not like us anymore." As he finished the message, he heard something outside the camp. Not one voice now, but many. Whispering, moving, watching, the team gathered. Close, weapons ready, but nothing entered the light. The whispers circled them all night, never stopping. When dawn broke, the captain looked at his crew. Their faces were pale, their eyes filled with fear. This mission was no longer a simple discovery. It was something else. The colony had not been lost by accident. It had been buried. And now, by answering the signal, they had uncovered something that perhaps should never have been found. Far away, deep in the ruins, figures gathered in silence. Dozens of them, maybe more. They watched the new arrivals from the shadows, their strange eyes unblinking. And one of them whispered words that carried on the wind. They should not have come here. The secret must stay buried. The explorers had come searching for history. Instead, they had awakened it. The next day, the explorers moved carefully through the ruins. Their nerves were tight after the strange encounter in the night. Every sound of the jungle felt like footsteps following them. Vines curled around broken walls, and trees grew through windows of collapsed towers. Nature had swallowed the city, but it could not hide the truth humans had lived here once. Perhaps they still did. The captain ordered the crew to split into pairs and search for records. If people had built this colony, then somewhere there had to be storage, logs, or even simple journals that told what happened. The air was hot and heavy as they walked. Moss-covered metal doors. Every corner smelled of damp stone and rot. Yet, sometimes they saw something that made them stop. Scratches on the walls, not from claws, but from tools. Marks that were recent. One team entered what looked like an old library. Shelves had collapsed, but in the center, protected by stone and metal. They found containers filled with data, tablets, and paper journals. The paper was old and falling apart, but some words could still be read. The tablets sparked with weak energy, but with effort, they lit again. The explorers gathered close, their hearts pounding as the first text appeared. It was a diary. The words were simple, written by a colonist long ago. The harvest failed again. Disease spreads. Children are sick. Cannot call Earth. We are alone. Another entry read, "The storms destroy everything. We lost half the city. Still we endure." The further they read, the darker the words became. We changed. We had no choice. To live, we must do what others will call forbidden. But survival is everything. We will not die here. We remain. The crew stared at each other. The silence was heavy. They had all felt that the colonists had done something terrible, something desperate. But the words gave no detail, only warnings and a sense of pain. Then one explorer gasped. On the floor in the dust, there were footprints. Not old, but fresh. Small, the kind a child might leave. They looked at each other with fear in their eyes. Someone had been here not long ago. They followed the prints outside, through a shattered archway and into the jungle. The trees were thick. Their roots like walls, their branches woven into a ceiling of green. Strange bird-like creatures screamed overhead, and the air buzzed with insects. The prints led them to a river, wide and fast. On the far side, they saw a figure, small, thin, with long hair, standing still and watching them. The captain raised his hand in peace, calling softly. The figure did not move. For a moment, the world was silent, except for the rushing water. Then, with sudden speed, the child turned and vanished into the trees. The crew tried to cross the river, but the current was too strong. By the time they found a safe way around, the figure was gone. Still, the message was clear. The colony was not dead. Its descendants still walked these lands. That night, the explorers gathered in the ruined square again. They spoke in low voices about what they had found. One scientist argued that this was proof of human endurance, a miracle of survival. Another said it was proof of danger, that whatever these people had done, it was strong enough to keep them alive for centuries in a world no human should endure. The captain listened, but he could not forget the words carved in stone. We endure. We remain. Nor could he forget the pale man from the night, or the strange child by the river. These were not stories. They were real. As darkness fell, the jungle came alive again. Shadows moved in the distance. Fires glowed faintly on the horizon where no camp should exist. Drums echoed, slow and heavy, as if the earth itself was beating. The explorers sat together, weapons close at hand, eyes fixed on the blackness. Then came the voices, Many voices. They whispered from every direction, sometimes in words, sometimes in sounds, not human at all. The crew could not tell if they were warnings, threats, or prayers. All they knew was that they were not alone. At midnight, the captain stood and looked into the dark. His heart felt heavy with a truth he did not want to say aloud. This was not a forgotten world. It was not empty. The colony had survived, but at a terrible cost. And now the explorers had stepped into the middle of its secret. Deep in the ruins, the descendants gathered. They had watched the strangers from afar, testing them, studying them. Some wanted to kill the intruders. Others wanted to warn them. But one thing they all agreed on: the secret of this world could not be allowed to escape. The captain did not sleep that night. In his chest, he felt the weight of dread.
Ow.
They had come here chasing a mystery. Now they were living inside it. And as the whispers circled them again and again, he understood one thing with painful clarity. The forgotten world was not lost by accident. It had been erased. And the reason why was still out there, walking in the shadows, waiting to be revealed. The sun rose red through the thick clouds, turning the jungle into a world of blood and fire. The explorers woke with heavy eyes. None of them had slept well. Whispers from the night still echoed in their ears. It was not just the jungle. It was people descendants of the lost colony, watching, waiting. The captain ordered the team to move toward the deeper ruins. He hoped to find a central hall or government building where the truth of the colony might be recorded. As they walked, they noticed more signs of life: sharpened stakes in the ground, ropes tied between trees, and smoke trails rising far away. This was no abandoned world. It was inhabited. They entered a massive structure, its roof broken, but its walls still standing. Inside, they found carvings made of metal plates and stone. The drawings showed humans, but not as they once were. These humans were taller, their muscles strong, their eyes glowing like embers. In another carving, a group of them stood over broken machines, while shadows of storm circled above. The message was clear. The colonists had changed. One of the scientists whispered they called themselves something else, not human anymore. Something born from fire and struggle. As if the walls themselves had been listening, a sound came from the shadows. A low voice. Slow steps. Figures began to emerge from the dark corners of the hall. Men and women. But unlike any humans the explorers had seen before. Their bodies were lean and powerful, their movements silent, their eyes sharp with unnatural light. Some carried weapons made of bone and metal, others only their bare hands. But the way they moved spoke of discipline and strength. The explorers froze, hands near their weapons but not raising them. The captain stepped forward carefully, raising both hands in peace. "We come in search of knowledge," he said. "We did not know you were here." One of the figures stepped closer. A woman. Her skin was darkened by sun, but her face was marked with scars that seemed almost ritual. She looked at them for a long moment before speaking. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of steel. "You should not be here." The explorers glanced at each other. The captain asked, "Are you descendants of the colony?" The woman's eyes narrowed. "We are what remains. We are what was forced to rise when Earth abandoned us." Another man spoke, his voice deep and harsh. "Your kind left us to die, but we did not die. We became something stronger. We endured when no one came." The explorers tried to explain that they were not enemies, that they were only searching for history. But the woman shook her head. "History is buried for a reason. You must leave this world." Now, the silence that followed was heavy. The crew could feel the threat hidden in the words. The descendants were not begging. They were warning. But before the captain could answer, one of his crew whispered, "Captain, look." On the far wall, behind the group of survivors, hung a banner. It was faded and torn, but still clear, the old symbol of Earth's first colonies. And written beneath it, in bold, carved letters, were the words, "Children of Ash, the Explorers." Realized this was what the lost colony had called itself. Born from destruction, shaped by fire, They had survived by changing. The captain spoke softly. "We did not come to harm you. We want to learn to understand. We can help the woman." Cut him off. Help. Earth abandoned us. The Union erased us. We do not need your help. We do not need your pity. Her voice grew colder. If you stay, you will not leave. If you dig into the past, you will not survive. Her people began to move forward, slow and threatening. The explorers stepped back, their weapons trembling in their hands. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, the children of Ash stopped. The woman raised her hand, and they froze like hunters obeying a signal. She looked at the captain one last time. "Leave this place. Forget what you saw. If you do not, the ground itself will rise against you." With that, the children of Ash faded back into the ruins, disappearing as silently as they had come. The explorers stood frozen for a long time, listening to the silence. Their hearts beat fast, their skin cold with fear. The scientists broke the silence. "They're stronger than us. Faster. Did you see their eyes? Did you see how they moved? They aren't normal humans anymore." Another whispered, "What did they mean? The ground will rise against us." The captain did not answer. His mind was racing. These people were the proof of survival beyond all reason, but they were also a threat. If they had endured this long, changed this much, what else had they done to survive? That night, the explorers stayed close together. No one dared to sleep. From the jungle came the sound of drums again, slow and powerful, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. Shadows moved just beyond their lights. The children of Ash were watching, testing, waiting. The captain wrote another report, his words sharp with unease. "The descendants live. They call themselves children of Ash. They have warned us to leave. They are human, but not as we are. If they are enemies, they will not be easy to defeat. If they are allies, they may change everything we know about humanity. But I fear they are neither. They are something else." When the captain finished, he heard the whisper again. A single voice carried on the wind, close but unseen. "Leave, before it is too late." The children of Ash had spoken. But whether the explorers would listen or dig deeper into the secrets of the forgotten colony was no longer a question of choice. It was a question of survival. The explorers could not leave. Even after the warning, even after the children of Ash vanished into the shadows, the pull of the mystery was too strong. The captain knew it was dangerous, but he also knew this could be one of the greatest discoveries in human history. A colony erased from records, survivors who had changed, and a truth buried for centuries. The Union would demand answers. At dawn, they returned to the ruined hall where the banner still hung. The place felt colder, emptier, as if the children of Ash had never been there. But the captain ordered the crew to search deeper. They broke through collapsed doors and entered tunnels that stretched beneath the city. The air was thick, damp, filled with the smell of rust and decay. As their lights cut through the dark, they found old machines. Massive engines, rusted but still humming faintly. It was impossible. How could they still be alive after so many centuries? The explorers moved carefully, brushing away dust, and found symbols carved into the machines. Old earth markings, but scratched out, replaced by strange new symbols. One of the scientists whispered, "They rewired this technology. They changed it." They pressed deeper into the tunnels and came to a sealed chamber. It took hours to break through the door, but when it finally opened, they found shelves lined with records, metal plates, data crystals, journals. The crew gathered, their hands shaking with excitement. The captain picked up one of the plates and placed it into a reader. A faint projection flickered to life. An old man appeared, his face thin, his eyes tired. His voice was weak but clear. "This is Governor Elias Corrin of Colony Ash 17. If anyone hears this, then our secret has been broken. The truth must be told." The crew leaned closer. We were abandoned. The storms destroyed our crops, disease struck, and Earth gave no answer. We were dying. We turned to science that was forbidden, experiments written in law as crimes. But we had no choice. To survive, we spliced our DNA with what we found here. We merged ourselves with the strength of this world's creatures. We became something different. Not fully human anymore, but not beasts either. The explorers stared at each other in shock. The old governor's voice grew harder. We endured. But when Earth discovered what we had done, they erased us. They did not send rescue. They sent silence. Our existence was buried, our signal ignored, our name struck from history. Because they feared us. Feared what we had become.
Feared what?
We carried inside us. The recording ended, the image fading into darkness. The chamber was silent. No one moved. Finally, one of the crew whispered, "They erased an entire colony to hide this. They erased their own people." The captain clenched. His fists. He understood now. This place wasn't forgotten by accident. It was buried by choice. Before they could speak further, a noise echoed from the tunnel behind them. Heavy footsteps. The explorers raised their lights and froze. The children of Ash stood at the entrance, weapons drawn. Their leader, the scarred woman, stepped forward. "You went too far," she said, her voice low but sharp. "You found what was not meant to be found." The captain tried to reason. "The galaxy deserves to know the truth." The woman's eyes burned. "The galaxy will not understand. They will call us monsters. They will bring fire to this world to erase us again. Is that what you want?" Her words cut deep. The explorers knew she was right. The Union feared what it did not control. If word spread, fleets would come, not with aid, but with weapons. The woman raised her hand, and her people closed in. For a moment, the explorers thought they were finished. But then she stopped and studied the captain. "You are not like the others," she said. "You hesitate. You question. It may save you. Leave this world now, and I will allow it. Stay, and you will not survive." The children of Ash vanished once more, leaving only the echo of their warning. The explorers climbed back to the surface, their minds heavy. The city loomed around them, silent and broken, yet alive with unseen eyes. The captain felt the weight of the choice pressing on him. He had uncovered the buried truth, a colony abandoned. Survivors changed by forbidden science, erased from history by their own people. But now he faced a greater question. Should he return with this knowledge, risking war? Or should he bury it again, leaving the children of Ash to live in shadows? That night, as the explorers camped, the captain could not sleep. Looked at the stars, wondering if Earth still remembered this place deep in its hidden records. Wondered if the decision to erase the colony had been fear or wisdom. And as the wind carried whispers through the ruins, he realized something chilling. The children of Ash were not only guarding the secret, they were preparing, watching, waiting. For the day the galaxy might come for them again. The buried truth was not just history. It was a warning. The storm came without warning. Thunder cracked across the ruined city, and the sky turned black as if night had fallen again. The explorers huddled inside a half-broken tower, watching rain fall in sheets so heavy it drowned the streets below. Lightning flashed, and for an instant the captain thought he saw figures standing on rooftops. Watching through the storm, when the thunder faded, they heard something else. A deep, hollow sound coming from beneath the earth. It was not thunder. It was machines. The captain ordered his crew to check the scanners. The readings showed energy signatures under the ruins, massive and ancient, still active. It was impossible. The colony should have been dead for centuries, and yet something still lived beneath their feet. The explorers decided to investigate. They followed broken stairways and old tunnels, water dripping from stone ceilings, until they reached a hidden vault sealed by heavy doors. Strange markings covered the surface symbols that were half human, half alien. It took hours of cutting and hacking before the doors groaned open, revealing a dark chamber that stretched far below. Inside, their lights flickered against enormous machines. Rows of them, buried deep underground, humming faintly as if asleep. The explorers stepped closer, brushing dust from the consoles. On one wall they found words etched by hand. "Do not wake them." One of the scientists whispered, "This must be what they called the sleepers." The crew exchanged nervous glances. These machines were not just for power. They were something else, something the children of Ash had built or inherited. The captain's instinct screamed at him to turn back, but curiosity pulled harder. He touched one of the controls. The machine shuddered. Lights flickered. Low vibration filled the chamber, rising like a heartbeat. "Captain," one of his crew warned, "we should stop. We don't know what this does." But before he could respond, the ground shook violently. The machines roared to life, their lights blazing with sudden power. The explorers stumbled back as the vault trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Then, one by one, massive doors slid open along the walls. From inside came shapes, not machines. Not fully human either. Giant frames covered in armor and wires built for war, built for survival. Their eyes glowed faintly, just like the children of Ash. The explorers stood frozen, their hearts pounding. They had awakened something that should have stayed buried. Then the storm above seemed to answer. Lightning struck the city again and again, as if the planet itself was alive. The children of Ash appeared at the edge of the chamber, weapons drawn, their faces filled with fury. Their leader, the scarred woman, stepped forward, her voice echoing like thunder. "You fools," she said. "Do you know what you've done? You woke them." "Hey." The captain shouted over the roar of the machines. "What are they?" "They are what saved us," the woman said, her eyes blazing. "When we were dying, when Earth erased us, we turned to the forbidden. We built Guardians part human, part machine, part nightmare. They were our answer to extinction." The explorers stared at the armored figures stepping from their chambers. Each one towering, each one breathing with unnatural life. They were not simple machines. They were alive. The woman's voice grew darker. "We call them the Sleepers, because they were too dangerous to walk this world. They are our last defense, our final warning. And now they are awake again." The chamber shook as the Sleepers took their first steps, their eyes glowing brighter, their movements slow, but heavy with power. The explorers raised their weapons in panic, but the captain ordered them to hold fire. Shooting would be suicide. The scarred woman looked at the captain with fury and sorrow. "You see now why your union erased us. They feared what we had created. They feared what we had become. And now your hands have broken the silence." She pointed to the machines. "If they wake fully, no one leaves this planet alive." The explorers backed away, their breaths sharp, their minds filled with terror. The captain realized too late that their search for answers had crossed a line that should never have been crossed. The buried truth was no longer buried. The Sleepers were stirring, and with them, the planet itself seemed to shiver as the explorers fled the vault. The machines roared louder, their voices like beasts rising from slumber. The storm above grew worse. Lightning striking so close the ground split in cracks of fire. That night, from their camp, the explorers saw the horizon glow with unnatural light. Something deep in the earth had woken, and the children of Ash stood upon the rooftops, watching in silence, their eyes reflecting the fire. The captain wrote one line in his log before the system failed. "We did not discover the past. We have awakened it, and it is coming for us." The storm came without warning. Thunder cracked across the ruined city, and the sky turned black as if night had fallen again. The explorers huddled inside a half-broken tower, watching rain fall in sheets so heavy it drowned the streets below. Lightning flashed, and for an instant the captain thought he saw figures standing on rooftops, watching through the storm. When the thunder faded, they heard something else. A deep, hollow sound coming from beneath the earth. It was not thunder, it was machines. The captain ordered his crew to check the scanners. The readings showed energy signatures under the ruins, massive and ancient, still active. It was impossible. The colony should have been dead for centuries, yet something still lived beneath their feet. The explorers decided to investigate. They followed broken stairways and old tunnels, water dripping from stone ceilings, until they reached a hidden vault sealed by heavy doors. Strange markings covered the surface symbols that were half human, half alien. It took hours of cutting and hacking before the doors groaned open, revealing a dark chamber that stretched far below. Inside, their lights flickered against enormous machines. Rows of them, buried deep underground, humming faintly as if asleep. The explorers stepped closer, brushing dust from the consoles. On one wall they found words etched by hand. "Do not wake them." One of the scientists whispered, "This must be what they called the sleepers." The crew exchanged nervous glances. These machines were not just for power. They were something else, something the children of Ash had built or inherited. The captain's instinct screamed at him to turn back, but curiosity pulled harder. He touched one of the controls. The machine shuddered. Lights flickered. A low vibration filled the chamber, rising like a heartbeat. "Captain," one of his crew warned, "we should stop. We don't know what this does." But before he could respond, the ground shook violently. The machines roared to life, their lights blazing with sudden power. The explorers stumbled back as the vault trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. Then, one by one, massive doors slid open along the walls. From inside came shapes, not machines. Not fully human either. Giant frames covered in armor and wires built for war, built for survival. Their eyes glowed faintly, just like the children of Ash. The explorers stood frozen, their hearts pounding. They had awakened something that should have stayed buried. Then the storm above seemed to answer. Lightning struck the city again and again, as if the planet itself was alive. The children of Ash appeared at the edge of the chamber, weapons drawn, their faces filled with fury. Their leader, the scarred woman, stepped forward, her voice echoing like thunder. "You fools," she said. "Do you know what you've done? You woke them." "Hey." The captain shouted over the roar of the machines. "What are they?" "They are what saved us," the woman said, her eyes blazing. "When we were dying, when Earth erased us, we turned to the forbidden. We built Guardians part human, part machine, part nightmare. They were our answer to extinction." The explorers stared at the armored figures stepping from their chambers. Each one towering, each one breathing with unnatural life. They were not simple machines. They were alive. The woman's voice grew darker. "We call them the sleepers, because they were too dangerous to walk this world. They are our last defense, our final warning. And now they are awake again." The chamber shook as the sleepers took their first steps, their eyes glowing brighter, their movements slow, but heavy with power. The explorers raised their weapons in panic, but the captain ordered them to hold fire. Shooting would be suicide. The scarred woman looked at the captain with fury and sorrow. "You see now why your union erased us. They feared what we had created. They feared what we had become. Now your hands have broken the silence." She pointed to the machines. "If they wake fully, no one leaves this planet alive." The explorers backed away, their breaths sharp, their minds filled with terror. The captain realized too late that their search for answers had crossed a line that should never have been crossed. The buried truth was no longer buried. The sleepers were stirring, and with them, the planet itself seemed to shiver as the explorers fled the vault. The machines roared louder, their voices like beasts rising from slumber. The storm above grew worse, lightning striking so close that ground split in cracks of fire. That night, from their camp, the explorers saw the horizon glow with unnatural light. Something deep in the earth had woken, and the children of Ash stood upon the rooftops, watching in silence, their eyes reflecting. The fire, the captain wrote one line in his log before the system failed. "We did not discover the past. We have awakened it, and it is coming for us." The storm did not end. For 2 days the sky burned with lightning and rain, and the earth shook like a wounded beast. Explorers remained trapped in the ruins, unable to fly their ship, grounded by the violent weather. But what truly frightened them was not the storm, it was the sound from beneath the city. A steady rhythm like the steps of giants echoing through the ground. The sleepers had awakened. On the third night, the children of Ash came again. They did not attack, but surrounded the explorers' camp in silence. Dozens of them stood in the rain, their pale eyes glowing in the darkness. Then their leader, the scarred woman, stepped forward. "You opened the vault," she said coldly. "You released them. Now you will learn what survival costs." The captain stood firm, though. His chest felt heavy. "Tell us the truth. What are they? What did you do to survive?" The woman's gaze was sharp as a blade. For a long moment she said nothing. Then slowly she nodded. "You want the truth? And hear it, and know why your kind erased us." Led them through the storm, deeper into the city, into a hall where fires still burned in iron bowls. Around the flames sat more children of ash, their faces hard, their bodies scarred. The explorers sat among them, the air thick with tension. The woman began to speak. Her voice was low, heavy with memory. "When the storms destroyed our crops, when the plague struck, we turned to our science. At first, we tried simple cures. We failed. We grew weaker. Our children died, and then desperation led us further. We studied the creatures of this world, strong, resistant, able to live where humans could not. We took their strength and joined it to our own." The explorers listened in silence. "We changed ourselves," she continued. "We spliced our blood with theirs. We gave up what made us weak. At first it was small, better lungs to breathe the heavy air, stronger skin to survive disease. But it did not stop there. Soon, we gave ourselves sharper senses, greater speed, unnatural strength. We became different. Not beasts, not human. Something in between." One of the explorers whispered, "That's why you look the way you do." The woman nodded. "Yes, that is why our eyes burn in the dark, why we heal faster, why we live longer. We are no longer what Earth made us. We are what this world made us." Her voice hardened. But even that was not enough. The storms grew worse. Whole cities fell. We needed protectors. So we created the Sleepers. They are the price of our survival warriors, built with human flesh, machine bones, and alien power. They were made to defend us when extinction came. But they were too dangerous, even for us. So we put them to sleep, deep underground, sealed away forever, until you woke them. The explorers exchanged terrified looks. The captain's heart sank. The children of ash had sacrificed their humanity to survive. And now the Sleepers' creatures of nightmare were rising again. The woman's eyes locked on the captain. "Do you see now? Survival demands a price. We paid it. Your union was too afraid to pay, so they abandoned us. They erased us. They chose to bury our name rather than face what we had become." Silence filled the hall. The explorers knew she was right. If the Union discovered the truth, they would never accept the children of ash. They would see them as monsters, as abominations, as weapons that could not be allowed to live. Then, from the distance, the ground shook violently. The flames. The bowls flickered. The Sleepers were moving again. The woman turned to her people. "The Guardians will rise fully soon. If they do, nothing can stop them." She looked back at the captain. "Leave now. Take your people and your lies. Forget us. Forget this world. If you do not, you will share our fate." But the captain could not forget. He could not turn away from what he had seen. The scientist at his side whispered, "If the Union learns about the Sleepers, they will send fleets to destroy this place. If they don't learn, these things might one day spread beyond this planet." The captain's thoughts raced. There was no right choice. If they left, the truth would remain buried, but the threat of the Sleepers would remain too. If they stayed, they might uncover more, but they might never leave alive that night. As they returned to their broken camp, the rain stopped. The storm was finally ending. But in the silence that followed, the explorers heard something worse than thunder. A low, steady march. Sleepers rising from the depths, step by step. The captain wrote in his journal, "Survival has a price. They paid it with their humanity. Now we must decide what we are willing to pay to leave this place alive." In the distance, fire rose above the jungle, and the silhouettes of the Sleepers moved against the glow. A storm gathered above the ruined colony. The sky split with flashes of pale lightning. The alien survey team huddled near their shuttle, instruments buzzing with strange readings. They had mapped countless dead worlds, but this place felt wrong. It was silent, too silent. Yet the machines kept warning of movement. The leader, Captain Reiser, frowned as he studied the scanner. Something was walking just beyond the hills, something large, moving with purpose. But no life signs registered. Back on the orbiting ship, the crew received a warning from deep space probes. Energy spikes were rising from the planet's surface, old power grids coming alive after centuries of silence. The alien scientists were unsettled, whispering that the human ruins should never have been disturbed. Every corridor they entered, beneath the surface, carried mark scratches in metal, burns across the walls, and doors welded shut from the inside. When the team forced one door open, stale air hissed out. Inside, they found rows of sealed chambers. The lights flickered as if reacting to their presence. One chamber was cracked open, frost spilling out. A shape inside twitched, and the temperature in the room dropped. The soldiers raised their weapons. But the captain lifted a hand. Curiosity held him. He wanted to see what humanity had hidden. A loud metallic thud echoed through the tunnels. Something heavy was awake. The walls trembled as distant doors slid open on their own. One of the scientists screamed as their communicator filled with static. Then a deep, distorted voice broke through. It was human, but warped with age and fury. "You were not invited here," the voice repeated again and again across every channel, vibrating the halls. The aliens panicked, retreating, but their way out sealed with a violent crash. The old colony was locking them inside, above, in orbit. The ship's sensors captured massive heat signatures rising from the colony's underground grid. Whatever. The humans had buried, it was no longer sleeping. The last transmission from the survey team was short, just 3 words before silence claimed them. "They are awake." The entire crew stared at the comms panel, frozen. They came to study ruins. Instead, they had broken the lock on something humanity never wanted found. The sky above the lost colony burned with unnatural light. Energy surged from the ruins, spiraling into the heavens like a beacon no one could ignore. Across the alien fleet, alarms howled as their ship struggled to stabilize. Systems failed. One by one, screens filled with static, and then silence. Down below, the ancient city stirred. The ground split apart, metal towers rising from beneath the soil, wrapped in chains of lightning. Inside those towers, massive shapes moved, human war machines. Sealed for centuries, their designs alien yet unmistakably Terran. They powered. Up with a low, thunderous hum, shaking the planet to its core, the alien commander, still orbiting, shouted for retreat. But the fleet could not move. Their engines refused to respond, caught in a gravity well being projected from the colony itself. The more they fought, the tighter the invisible grip held them. They realized too late that this world had never been abandoned. It had been armed. Deep within the underground vaults, the awakened humans stepped forward. Their eyes glowed faintly, their bodies enhanced with forgotten technology. They were not ordinary colonists anymore. They had evolved, adapted, and become something far stronger, guardians of a secret no outsider was meant to touch. The alien soldiers who had broken the seals were dragged into the dark. Their screams echoed briefly, then stopped. One survivor's voice came through, trembling and broken. "They are not like us. They are not even human anymore." In orbit, the fleet finally managed to fire. Beams of plasma lanced toward the planet, but the colony's towers rose higher, shields forming from pure energy. The attacks bounced harmlessly away. Then the colony answered. From the surface, a single weapon fired an ancient human cannon, its shot ripping through space, like a shard of burning light. One alien cruiser vanished in an instant, torn apart. The fleet realized their doom. The last transmission from the alien flagship was filled with terror. "We should never have come here. This world belongs to them." On the ground, the awakened humans stood silent, watching the burning wreckage fall from the sky. They spoke in unison, their voices carried through the storm. The galaxy forgot us, but we did not forget. The colony once thought dead, now lived again, and its guardians had risen to protect it. Whatever secrets they kept buried, they were no longer hidden, and the galaxy would soon learn the price of disturbing them. The lost colony had awakened,